here at Kenwood Plumbers tonight. For those who are new to FBA, I am Amanda Russell, State Representative for SA&NT at FBA. So I just wanted to welcome us, or acknowledge country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. So I just wanted to acknowledge Minister Michaels for being here. It's not often that we have the Minister join us for these events, so it is very special. So if you do want to take a photo, feel free to. That's why I'm not eating the burger. I also wanted to acknowledge our state partners here tonight. So we have on Drive Lawyers, we've got Kasha Maxima, I never pronounce it properly, I'm so sorry. Hannah Andreev from Andreev Lawyers, and then also from Paul Sweeney, we have Liam Mann and Larissa Riccio. So thank you so much. For those who again are new to FBA, it's been quite some time since we've had state partners, so it's really special to be working with a legal firm and a financial firm and really being able to provide some more offerings for our and some state-based in-person education that I know that we've missed through COVID. I also wanted to acknowledge our FBA ambassadors here who assist the work that we do in SA, and our state director, Brett Miller. So we have Lorne Partridge, Chris Graves, Brianna Feig, and also Sarah Leo, who is one of our forum facilitators. So welcome all members, and if this is your first event, welcome, and I hope you get something out of it. I just wanted to let you know that we have our conference coming up in April the 30th to 3rd of May, which will be held in Cairns. And it's actually our early bird finishes tonight. So if you are planning to come along, please get behind the event and book the tickets and save yourself all the time.
Is the front door unlocked?
We also have
done an automatic
our family business essentials in
You did disarm it.
for any new members to FBA. It is complimentary, and that's happening at Paul Sweeney on the 4th of April. And we also have a sundowner and a coffee connect coming up as well. So if you need any more information about those events, please reach out.
I want to just pop out and tell him to
group,
pop something there.
Four forum groups here in South Australia. If forum is something that you are interested in to provide.
Ken just wants you to keep an eye on the front door because I think it's locked in case people want to come and go. So from here,
it doesn't lock.
I'd like to introduce Annette Bonnet from HLB Manjot, and also Ken Hall and Brad Hall, and I'll hand things over to you. Thank you so much.
Welcome everybody. I have to say this was a highlight for me, getting a phone call from Amanda a couple of months ago, and her saying we've got a come and meet a beautiful family business coming up at Ken Hall Plumbers. Would you be interested in doing the Q&A session? And I said it would be my pleasure, obviously knowing that the business has been around for a very long time and recently celebrated 40 years. So great opportunity for us all to help celebrate with them and learn from some of their experiences. So I'm going to pose a couple of questions through to Ken and Brad as we do a bit of a get to know them, and then we'll have some time at the end to do some question and answers for anybody that has a burning question that they would like to ask. So Ken, we might start with you if we can, and
Yes.
give us a bit of an insight into the journey you've had and the Ken Hall story.
Yeah, well, thank you first to everybody for coming along tonight. It's a real honour to be hosting a FBA event, and we as a company are proud FBA members now for a reasonable period of about 7 years. And being a family business has been an aim from day one for me. That has been a very strong goal from the first day of starting to work for myself. And for me as a tradesman, I started as a young boy as a tradesman because my father was one, and so I often went to work to learn the trade. And my father was a plumber, and I was not a high achieving academic scholar, but I did have 3 brothers that were high achieving academic scholars, and I was a little bit frustrated why that was the case. And I could talk on for hours about my story, so I'll do it really condensed. But back in those days, I realised I was quite dyslexic, so that was a struggle for me at school. I completed year 12, and I did go into my father's business. He was in business with his twin brother. But as a child, I always went along to work, not with my father, but on the building sites. They did building sites in the northern suburbs, mainly new schools and things like that, and they were running a reasonable team of staff. Father in business with his twin brother there. I then started working. There was a cousin that came in the other side. I learnt the trade, completed a bit extra study so I could work for myself. And rather suddenly in 1982, my father told me one Friday that I'll be finishing up. And his exact words, "You'll finish up." And I was like, "Dad, what's going on there?" And that's how my father was. He was strong. He was clear. He put me on the sites with the more hardened type characters, and I was taught to work. But I enjoyed that. I walked out of the premises there probably a little bit shell-shocked. I couldn't understand why my cousin wasn't leaving at the same time. My father gave a reason for that, and he just said to me, "You'll be okay." I went out, thought for a brief moment about what I should do, and then I wasn't totally sold on the trade. But it came to me in a moment that I needed to make a decision, hang my hat on the hook and get on with the job and be good at something. So I decided to go into my own business. But upon leaving my father's business, I thought to myself that if I'm going to go into the areas of the trade, I'm going to go into a different area of the trade, and that is into the private market, into service, into people. I wanted to build a brand name that no one could take away from me. I wanted to build a client base that is solid and secure. I wanted to build a business of relationships and go into this totally different area. I wanted nothing to do with my family business in any way, shape or form. I didn't tell anyone about my family business and my family background. We didn't talk about that as a family until 2010, so it was a long time before I actually sat down with Mum and Dad and recapped some of the events. I also realised that was my father's choice. It was his way of doing things. And I have to accept it, and I had a great relationship with my father and respect, but it did hurt. I see that as a driver because I wanted to get on and do something, and I thought I would like to build a business, and I would like to have a second generation business because I see myself as purely second generation, but I was taught the trade, not on a personal level, but I was around it all the time. And so during those early years of going into the service market, it was difficult to do that in 82, and I registered the business name in 83 because of inability for anyone to ring you up. If you're on the road doing your work, you needed to go home to find if there was a message on the answer machine. So early days were difficult. My competition with the larger brands such as Plumbers, etc., who had an office and a structure there in Kensington and so forth. But I found ways around that initially, and it was always going pretty hard, and the pages were only just coming available, etc. The early years, my first employer was around 86, and a plumber came on board with me. Like anything, they're generally a younger person, because who's more mature want to work for a young person that was perhaps a little bit naive and still struggling with the reading and writing side of things, but determined to build the skills. My first tradesman came on. Within a few months, he promptly crashed the car that I handed him down, a vehicle that I was driving, and he wrote that vehicle off. So that became a huge financial moment of stress that every business has. And so quickly I went to the School of Plumbing and took on an apprentice to also come on board, because not only did he smash that van, I had to buy another van. He then, within weeks, got picked up for DUI, so I had to go to the School of Plumbing to get a driver. So basically, with my first staff member, I was going backwards financially.
I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I don't know if you know the last 2 staff members have written off their car within the first week. And One of them hit a new Tesla the other day.
That
So
fine?
it still happens. It's just a thing. Well, I think it was inattentive driving, e.g. texting. Texting, we think.
Oh, okay.
So it
I
still
mean, so
happens.
the difficulties of business, and when you're smaller, the hurdles are massive, you know. And I struggled through that. Around that similar time, there in the 80s, my father decided to retire from his business with his twin brother, and that business went to my cousin, which is still going today. And as you can imagine, that was another driver for me. Also, he sold his premises to the business that I thought was the one I was trying to be like, which was Plumbers. They went and bought my father's yard. So, you know, I see that as, oh, I'm going to get better and improve. And for me, it was always experiences due to my own youth, where there were a couple of moments I was trying to learn and take everything from everybody. And during the 90s there, I created another business, which was a manufacturing. I saw that commercial hot water in Australia needed to change. Being with a dominating player, they'd been in the commercial space with not much change for 30 years, and I saw putting together continuous flow burners with long life storage tanks and creating a commercial hot water product that could challenge Rheem in the commercial hot water market on a national level. So I went off into that venture and ended up proving quite successful, and we produced commercial hot water product from anything for a large home. We sold Eddie Maguire one back in 2000 to a 40-storey building, and in 2005 I sold that business, and again I had in that stage one aim to build a national brand name that someone wanted to take away from me, and I couldn't find a way through that moment when the offer came from Renai to purchase the business. I decided to sell. Brad was part of that business back in the day, and he was sold to Renai for a period of time, and that was a great experience for Brad until he found himself unemployed there, with a moment of encouragement from his father to send an email to the GMN.
Why was I unemployed?
So,
I think my email might have been a bit pointed to the Renai CEO, wasn't it?
yes, it was. But, you know, again, I'm just talking through moments where I'm learning and adapting and taking challenges. And people say to me, well, why has the business been able to grow? Well, through that moment when I was heading into state as the one-man salesman for the company, and we created a production site down at Devon Park, we were pretty busy, but I was no longer sitting there over the top of the business. So that created a growth opportunity. People had to come in and cover behind me. And so that's how it's been, and the philosophy then I took on board that I would always learn a step, and being a bit restless, I'd move on to another step and leave someone else to do that. So always looking to teach someone else, learn to be the best yourself and then teach someone else. And we've gone on in that philosophy ever since to grow, and I'd like to go back to that national market one day. And so the years gone by, you know, the premises that we've had one step at a time. In 1986, once you have a staff member, you have too much excess product coming back and it's too much for the house. I had to rent something at Dulwich, and then we're at Glenside, and then we're in another spot in Glenside, and then another spot. There used to be various factories around Glenside there moving around before we eventually came to Kensington Road and based up there for quite a long period of time, where we could expand into the property next door for our administration and have a car park, to today where we are now in the premises here, where we have a store on part of the building there, in this building now. But recently we've purchased another building just down the road that we are expanding into due to the number of vehicles we have, and at a fleet of 120 vehicles now, starting with one and a full-time staff of 160. And for me, 40 years on, we're now into the 5th decade, and you know, really proud of the business to last the decades. But to me, in my heart, always was to grow into second generation, and to me, I saw that as the great challenge to be around for a long time, but to then bring your family through, maintain style and culture and the components of what the business is, and carry that forward, maintaining the relationship with your family, and seeing if they can then take the business to the next level. At the same time, I've been slowly stepping away. So I'm at the point where I don't have a specific task in the business at all, other than being around the place and casting my thoughts. Where Brad is in charge of the day-to-day, and Madeline's in charge of the HR and the safety components now. And we're that style and structure where we have all the complexities, which when I was a small business, I didn't feel like I was in business, but we do now with the structures we have, the accountants, the marketing division, and everything is happening all the time, and it's exciting to see what we can evolve to.
So we're going to touch on a few more of those more recent perhaps areas very soon, and bringing the kids in
Yes.
to the business. But I just wanted to take one step back. Operating a sole trader business, obviously all about your values. You instill those values into the employees, the people you bring into the business. How have you managed that process of your values becoming the business values?
Yeah, for me, starting off as a one person, that your values becoming the business, I've always believed that a business does reflect who is in control of that business. And I felt this business needs to reflect my values. It's what I do every day. It's hard for it not to. But as you grow, that becomes the challenge of maintaining your values and ensuring they go down the lines of people. And I feel a great CEO is someone that maintains that disciplines down the line. And for us, you know, the basics of trust, integrity, doing the right thing, being the best in the business, always at it, always being available, not saying no. There's so many simple things. And that is a challenge, and I think that's probably why a lot of CEOs get paid a lot of money, if they're very good at that structure down the line, culture. It's always the key, and the biggest challenge is managing people. Why I've always been excited about the challenge is learn the skills of the trade. I'm a general builder, plumber, and all the trade skills, but then there's the business skills, but then the most difficult one is the people skills and how you interact with each staff member, and your tolerance and adjustment and listening, and when to be quiet, when to talk, etc. I don't mind talking, but
So
that's really important.
Segue actually into at what stage did you know or realise that Brad and Madeline were the right people to come into that business, given you'd always wanted to build that business as a second generation business?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because with my background there, thinking, yes, I'd love to build that, I would like to do it this way. I think there was never a conscious moment where I thought that. I thought from day one, when Brad appeared, was I was going to be open and communicate with him always about everything, which I didn't have that experience. So I adopted the absolute opposite. So always sharing what my thoughts were, why I made a decision. Coming again from experience is everything. So if he's learning that I've made a decision, even though he might have only been 12, because he would come with me to work so often when I was on the road in my younger day, he had an understanding. So it became natural for him because he was interested, I think, and he understood it.
Yeah. And I guess, Brad, just posing a similar question to yourself, at what stage, after spending years obviously running around with Dad in the van and getting involved, did you start to think, well, maybe this is my future, maybe this is something that I want to get involved in?
Well, I think it was, as Ken was saying, it was drummed into me from an early age. Like, you spend that long sitting,
no choice.
yeah, like you spend that long sitting next to a drain machine in the back of the van. I think you sort of become a plumber by osmosis. But yeah, I think I was always naturally interested. I always spent every hour or time I could here. Especially, I didn't take the conventional pathway to being a tradesman. I went to university straight out of school. But any time I wasn't at university, I was here. I was learning, and I think it just sort of snuck in. Like, I was thinking about it the other day, how we used to ride in the car and you'd be doing, when you're saying you were dyslexic, you were dictaphoning in the notes as he was driving along. So we'd be going to school, we'd be working at the same time, saying I've investigated block drain, stroke, cleared from the government inspection, and
Yes.
someone would be typing up that bill. But I think, yeah, it was very much a family business, and I have so many memories of that growing up. Yeah.
So one of the things that often happens in the family business is the idea that the family will have sort of that one step ahead, or potentially get to the prime positions before perhaps an employee may, or someone with a similar skill set, or perhaps a similar skill set. So I guess, Brad, perhaps you'd like to just comment on your transition into the role of CEO. Was there any sort of selection process? Was it the right person, right skills? What sort of process did you go through with Dad to get into that CEO role?
Well, I think you absolutely have to be the best person for the job. Like, I think we're really open on that. Like, there's, we were really transparent on that early. Like, there's no favours or jobs for the family. It's certainly, you need to be good enough in your own position. And if you're not good enough in your own position too, when you ask the question about values and everything like that, like, I had to be good early, because at 20, 21, the boys know that I went to university first, tradesman second. Like, I had to learn how to stand up really fast to be able to manage people quickly, or they'd walk all over me. And so I pretty much made it, basically my life's work to study this, study people, learn how to deal with people, learn how to get the best out of them. So I guess I was probably interviewing for it my whole life. But yeah, if you're not the best person for the job, the people in the business don't respect you, and you can feel that like straight away. If you're not winning over the people, then you're no longer the right person for the job, I think. And there's been people that have been harder than others. Like, it was definitely challenging when I was younger, and a lot of the people were the people that Ken had employed. I've still got a lot of those. We're really fortunate as I came into the job. We never lost any long-termer that wasn't happy with the transition between Ken and myself, but we've also been able to bring on lots of good new people as well, and it gets easier every year. But always investing in learning to make sure I remain the best. If we're not the best, we're going backwards, and if you're going backwards, you're sort of dying in the business world a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you also, in your early years in the key seat, is I vacated the office and went to another one, and that way the men or any issues would come to Brad, and I was in more of a back location, but it was a phone call away to give a thought. So,
well, we're 40 years this year, and in the last year, and I still remember we had our 25-year work anniversary, and we were doing a bit of a concert thing, and that night I think we'd stood down a guy or something, and I was starting to be wanting to have more leadership or whatever, and I still remember that guy coming in, and I said to him, "You're going to have to leave the van here, mate." And I think he got right up in my grill, and he's like, "I ain't doing that." And I was like, "Geez, I'm going to have to get a bit better at this people management stuff." Like, so 15 years on from there.
Yes.
So transitioning your son into a CEO role, obviously, is not necessarily an easy step, and it puts another hat on for you to wear. So your father, your mentor, your role model, your business owner, how does that process go, I guess, for you, Ken, of managing all those different roles?
Yeah, there's a lot of thought goes into that, and I feel for myself, I had that original example, and then the desire to do it in a different way and be very transparent about that. So yeah, very conscious every day of how and what advice you put in your children. And I was talking with a couple of fellas here earlier tonight about this, and the next generation, the work ethic, the desire, the hunger, desire for success, and also your children understanding you and you understanding them. So it's a long-term commitment. I see many businesses perhaps would like someone to take over the business, but if they haven't been prepped for a long period of time, that's when the trouble arises. Many businesses have people working somewhere else for a long time. For me, I've chosen the other way and had them involved and have them understanding the complexities of our industry, to understand why tradesmen are like they are and how single-minded they can be, etc., to be able to then manage them. So I think my focus has always been about preparing your children to leave the nest and live life and manage their life. At the same time, if the prospect them being involved, they need to handle and cope with the success, manage the stress, the day-to-day, be prepared to do the grind but see the good in that, understand it's actually not really a grind, it's a lot of enjoyment in doing what you're doing.
They're called hard lessons, aren't they?
Hard lessons, yeah. It's no gain without pain, but it's a lot of fun, really. And they're understanding the importance of a family business, because there's what I've learned, and the amazing thing of some of the businesses I've had in contact with is how massive they are outside of what you see as their face and core business. So there's a lot to take in.
So as the next generation has come on board, obviously structuring has become a question, and what documents do we have? How are we structured? Do we need to consider anything moving forward? Can you perhaps share with us tonight the process that you've started and continuing to go through about how you see that next generation now, I guess, restructuring for growth for the business and structuring for the future generations?
Yeah, and that is really the big challenge, and it's a very important time for us to look at that thoroughly now, and have been with our involvement with FBI and FBA, and also KPMG have been involved with us, and we've had to do a lot of structural change to the business. I hung on for a very long time just being a sole trader. I was very comfortable with that. It worked for me for lots of reasons, and but we have a structure that seems to be massive these days, and that is really working and set us up for the future, and we did that quite a few years ago. But working into the family constitution, etc., at my age point now becomes paramount, because you don't know what can happen very quickly. And I also have another son that's in between Madeline, my daughter, just sitting here, as we know, is Jackson, and he is a pilot living in Hong Kong. So that is another complexity to manage in. And Brad might update shortly on some of the transition to our next steps as a business. So, and a lot of work has been looking at how we manage within our business as well, not just the outside, because it's just as important to be on the inside and the out at the same time, pairing that together. It takes a lot of emotion and energy to get it right.
Yeah. So I might pass that one then to you, Brad, like your involvement now in getting the documents right, getting the discussions happening, ensuring that things are getting planned for your future, the rest of the family's future, your children's future, thinking down that sort of path.
From
how are you finding that process?
From a family constitution perspective,
Yeah.
well, I think we communicate well, but we're probably at the ground floor-ish, or we're semi-advanced from a family constitution perspective. I mean, my main focus has been to just build a really good business, and I think we might talk about that in a minute, but my side of it is, if I build a really good business, then I'm sure it becomes like logical steps. But that's probably the best way I could answer that at the moment. We're good at talking about it.
Yes.
Probably just
Well, at least you
time
are.
to, yeah.
So from my side, from an advisor hat, at least you are talking about
Yeah.
it, because it's often the hardest conversation sometimes to start, but the one that must be started probably as early as possible to get people on
I
the
think
same
so.
page.
Like if I'm speaking purely from a second generation person, like like I've got family, I've got 3 kids. I'm sure Madeline feels the same. Like, we all want the business to be successful. We all want to make sure we're securing all of our futures together. And I think those conversations are important, because everybody's got different ambitions or different desires, and the best way to deal with that is just to get that out on the table. Like, what I want versus what my brother wants in Hong Kong might be 2 totally different things.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we have a good open dialogue on that stuff. We can sort of throw it out there, and we're really now just getting into it. Yeah.
So one other very important thing that we talked about, which I think is worth touching on for everybody, is attracting and retaining good staff. And the importance of doing that in the current environment out there is proving to be harder and harder. So I know when we caught up and had a chat, you spoke very passionately about keeping the right people on the bus in the right seats.
Yeah.
Can we elaborate a little bit perhaps on how you've taken Ken Hall Plumbers and the whole group through that transition to have a very good team now?
Yeah, well, I think we're pretty passionate about our values, as we talked about before. And I think for me, I've really come to understand the type of people I like to work with, and the type of people I want around me, and the way I want to live my life. And it's taken me quite a bit of time to work through that. And thankfully now we've got a really good group of people around us, and we've built a leadership team, and then an operational team underneath that. And we hold each other to really high expectations and high standards. We had our quarterly development training there last Friday, and we do that annually. But I'm pretty unapologetic on the type of people I like to work with and the standards I expect from those people. I came to work this morning, I said to my sister, Madeline, like, a lot of our conversations we have are for like the 1%ers. And you have to be pretty resolute when you talk and you believe in that sort of stuff, because people people fall away and they fall off you, and you're like, oh my God, am I losing people? But I really like to think that we're actually just attracting the right people that are really turbocharging us for the next level of our business. And we've got some really fantastic people now that, you know, you can have these real conversations with about building a meaningful life, building a meaningful business. And those are also the type of people that will do a little bit more. They'll read the book that you're reading. They'll get excited about the change. They'll ring the guy after hours that needs a little bit more support, or they'll take the call versus, no, I'm done at 5. And, you know, I think Brett was saying it, general manager who wants to finish at 4, like, yeah, you know. Yeah. So, you know, like we used to be like, yeah, we used to be like, oh, it's okay, finish at 4. Whereas now I'm like, well, the expectation is to finish at 5, and if you want to be good here. But then I was talking to a lot of people here early tonight. Like, attracting enough people is probably our biggest challenge now. You know, like if we could hire 10 people today, we would hire hands down 10 people today. If we could hire 20 people today, we'd hire 20 people today. And I think it's going to be one of our biggest challenges over the next 18 months. Like, I've got all this work and all this system and all these leads like ready to be done, all these amazing jobs ready to be done. I just need 20 more people to do it all. So it's an interesting time. We've got some ideas about how we can attract better talent to our business with the way we sort of approach the trades a little bit differently, and the way we can build some models for people to get a little bit more ownership working for us rather than the traditional hourly model, which we think can help bring some good talent. We've even advertising on radio to try and attract people at the moment, tradespeople to apply and be different, but we could have some government conversations about that. Try and get a few more apprenticeship skills or something. Yeah.
Certainly got some good ears.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah, we've got a talent shortage for sure. No doubt about that. But
so, what does the future look like? Where are we heading with Ken Hall? I guess. Did you want to talk about what's in the pipeline? What things are next on the agenda?
Lots in the pipeline. Yeah, lots in the pipeline. As you can probably see, we're very much a multi-trade business now. Obviously, with our electricians, our roofers, our bathroom renovations, and we're growing all those businesses really well. So, one of our next challenges is how do we present that to the market to get people to know that we do electrical and those sort of things. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in that space, which we were just chatting about with Lauren. We've done a lot of travel recently, and like I go around and visit a lot of businesses, and that's brought a lot of probably insight, including overseas. And so that's changed the way we approach the trades now. We're very upfront with our customers. We like to offer people a lot of choice. I think that's one thing that changed a lot since COVID. Like, I think traditionally a tradesperson, you would call us for a leaking tap, for example. We'd walk in with our tool bag, we'd be like, right, where's the tap? And we're on the clock, right? So we want to move as fast as possible. The customer doesn't really want to talk to us because they're like, well, you know, how long is this going to be? And it really is like if you really think about that, that doesn't encourage really good quality service, does it? Because everyone's in a rush. You're not opening your eyes to doing a good enough job for them. You're just doing it really fast. So now we like to prefer to come to someone's house and say, look, I could fix your tap for this much. I could replace your tap for this much. You know, and if you'd like some other type of taps, these are the ones we have. And technology now gives us the opportunity to do that at a touch of a button. And our customers are really loving that because they get given choice. You know, they can service the tap if they want, but there's a lot of people that go, actually, I would really like a new set of taps. And given that it's not that expensive, I'd be happy to do that.
So we do it there and then.
We do it there and then. So I think that's what we're trying to do, to reinvent the trade a little bit, especially in the Adelaide market. Like it's had some bad press from some other bigger companies and stuff that just don't do the right thing by people. And we just want to stand out through amazing service. So this room we use here, we got training on every morning of the week. We get international people training, we get local people training, we get them doing role plays even on just, is it okay if I come into your home? Is it okay where my van is parked? And just really focusing on just, if you just do an amazing job, people will call you again. And that's pretty much what we're building our business around. And that's why we're so keen to have the right people, because you got to get people to really believe in that. And when we were here during the week on Thursday and you're like, okay, guys, we're going to get up and do a role play. Like, you got to have the right kind of technicians that are like, you know, they're like, role play, Brad, really? You know, so finding those right guys that really believe in that too, that want to rock up and say, oh, I'm just going to put some shoe covers on if that's okay, you know. Yeah. So it's a different type of person. But that's where we're going, and it's exciting because it's different. You know, forever we just went and did a job and sent the bill after the fact, whereas now we've got all this technology and all these things we're teaching our guys how to use, and it's opening up lots of different.
And really empowers the staff now to another step.
Yep.
There's many tradesmen, they feel like they've become stuck, and this is a step on, and creates a lot more conversation between the customer and themselves. So they own the job more. And the customer then has the opportunity to sign off on that, and the price is quoted to our system. So we're trying to be very responsive and not be bogged down. What we found as our business was growing is we're putting more and more people around the outside to cushion our guys. And that sounds great, but that actually, we were getting bogged down in our own detail, unfortunately.
So just conscious of time too, and wanting to make sure we've got some time for Q&A at the end for any questions. One last probably question to each of you would be around what tip or what piece of advice would you give to the family business owners in the room and leave them with sort of tonight? I don't know, who would like to go first?
It's a tough question, that one. I think the thing I've tried and said earlier is to be very open and honest with your children always, and conduct yourself with those values and behaviours and standards, and continue to maintain that. And if there is, even some of the conversations we've been having behind the scenes, if they're a little bit tight, well, you need to come back to them until you have the right outcome, because it's always that conversation about the big picture that works for all of us at the end of the line. And if they find something is a little bit, allow them a stress to grow to it. But also as the founder, the founder needs to set back and allow room for the children to grow as well. So everyone plays a part in the big picture game. So communication.
Yeah, I think it's true for anything in life, like over-communicate. If you over-communicate, like I find it's the grey space in the middle where most of the bad stuff lives. Like, just have the courage to say what needs to be said, and if you say that, typically you'll get a good outcome. And I think another good place to come from is like be grateful for the opportunity that what family business presents, because, you know, for all the complexities that comes with it, it is a really cool opportunity to be able to build a legacy for your family. So I think if you remind yourself of that when it's tough or it's not quite the way you want it to be, it's a good humbling way to look at it. Yeah.
And what a great thing I can continue to come to work for the rest of my days.
Great.
when I want to.
Yeah, that's great.
You can.
So your name's on the door.
Yes.
Open the floor, perhaps. Any questions? Any burning questions anyone would like to pose to?
Just wanted to say we use your plumbers, electricians, and almost decided on a roofer. Amazing customer service. Like, so impressed with your team, and Ken Hall is fantastic. Like, and hearing your story, I find so inspiring. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And question: Do you have an off switch when it comes to conversations out of business? Let's say it's Christmas Day. Are you talking about Christmas? Are you talking about business always, or do you set boundaries within your family to, like, okay, come on, let's just have a family dinner without?
And that's a good question. Yeah, we can have a conversation about business on Christmas Day, and if there is a topic that's going to pop up, we'd just talk about it. So we don't say no talking, but we will stop it and move on. So yes, it can happen at any time of the day, but we try to be family at family times with that sort of aim, because Brad has 3 young children, so it's hard to talk about work when they're running around. Madeline has 2, so, and we do have a bit of family time. We go up the rivers together as well, and so I think we do shut it down and be family. It is important to do that.
It can be harder though too, because I'll see Ken 90% of the time at work, and so you do need to be mindful of. And then if he's away or whatever, and then I do see him at home, it's like I need to bounce this off you and that off you. And sometimes the challenge with that is I'll be bouncing it off him as my dad, and then I'm like, no, I'm just asking you as my dad, not as, you know, as the director right now. So there's a bit of a balance, but not easy.
It can be too much work at times, can't
Probably.
it?
Yeah. What do you think, Daniela? Is it? Yeah.
I've got a question. Just in terms of the way in which, as you've grown and your journey is quite wonderful, the way in which you've worked on having a good advice around you and the lessons that you've learned to transition that through the second generation, just that support network within and outside the business?
I've tried to involve myself in other things outside of the business, and that has helped me a lot. So other business people. So I've learnt a lot by being involved and being on some boards, and it's taught me that because I've always been on my own, so all my journey has been, and I spent too many years of being like that, but over the last 14 years, being more active there, I've found a lot of support by seeing, oh, they're having the same problems as me. Oh, I've already learnt that. And I used to go down to the Crows there back in 2010 on one of their support areas, and a lot of their people issues they were having, I thought, I've been through some of those hurdles. So yeah, being active in the community has been very helpful, and Brad's already on that journey. He's part of a group with similar people, and I will continue to maintain that. It also energises me by seeing what other people are doing. And that's been a decision we've taken even recently with trying to step our business forward again, is not trying to invent everything, trying to learn what the world is happening to and then tailor it to suit us. So thanks, Brett. Have you got enough?
Oh, well, yeah, you know, we've obviously got family business. We got, I'm a member of YPO as well. We've got what we call a scaling up coach, thousands of books. And yeah, like just, there's actually a really good network of quality trade businesses in Australia, which I've just uncovered, and people who are really happy to welcome you into their business. And that's like, we went to even America recently, and like there's businesses with 1,000 trucks, which I had a half day with the CEO, like the amount of goodness you can get from traveling. And that's one of the reasons someone asked me before, oh, why are you doing it tonight? Well, I think it's great to be able to welcome people into your place. And one of our goals actually is to be able to welcome any trade person from Australia to our shop, as they call it in America, shop, and be able to ride along with one of our techs, you know, and it could be anyone. You could come in unannounced, you could come here and we'd be happy to show you how we do it, and you could take it back. And by doing that, people give you heaps as well. I had a couple of guys from Sydney calling me today, for example, and that you learn a lot doing that.
Which is an absolute contrast of how it was.
Mm.
We wouldn't share, but the advantage of sharing is amazing.
A question at the back.
Yeah. So, Ken, I've been watching your daughter's facial expressions as you've been talking, mainly positive, I think. But I'm just curious, you're involved in the family business, what your experience has been. Is it sort of that compares to Brad's?
My experience, I just sort of naturally progressed into the role. I'm more in the HR and the people side. But public speaking's not my thing, so I'm happy to sit on.
Madeline looks after all the people for us.
Yeah,
People compliance. Yeah. And safety, which is the reason why she does safety, is because, you know, we feel it's one of our potential biggest risks. Like the thing that probably haunts us the most is, what if one of our staff members falls off a roof today and we haven't got the compliance information? So we wanted to keep that really close. And also, we take our relationships with our staff really seriously, and we're like a family, you know. And so by having Madeline in the HR perspective, she does the onboarding. She, you know, we just did our quarterly workshop. Like, how is she going to make it the best possible place to work? You know, and if you come at that from family values, you know, you're in a good stead to be able to do that.
My goal is like everyone being able to flourish at Kenholm, and how I can achieve that for them. Yeah.
By the end of the quarter. Yeah.
And
on my desk by the end of the quarter.
Because any tradesman can leave
And I'll
us.
put it on Dad's desk.
Yes. Any tradesman can leave us tomorrow and start somewhere else tomorrow, or start working for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been very focused for a long time now. We've always had the saying of working for yourself within the brand. How can we achieve that? We employ people, we commit, we buy the vehicle, we put them in, put a structure around them, and then they just go next Friday for whatever reason. So how we can find a way through that, and we feel we're on a tangent in the right direction towards that, because it's been difficult, especially after COVID. People were everybody wanted a pay rise, and everyone wanted a significant pay rise, and it's still occurring. But you know, that's every business has that problem, and it's a phase we're working through. That may settle again fairly shortly.
Any last question? Yeah.
It's interesting in the dynamic of having a couple of siblings heavily involved in the business and one that's not so involved, how you navigate that to create or keep the harmony there as you go forward.
Yeah, in Jackson, he did go to university and have a look at commerce, and then turned away from it and went travelling, but challenging travelling, and came back in within 12 months and decided to go and do aviation as a university degree. So it became a personal choice. He probably was clearing a bit of space for Brad, he might say. But really, it was time for him to make his own choice, because it really suits his personality and what he loves in life, which is out and about in the world. He's very much into the weather and geography, and so he's ended up in the right space, which was best for him. So it seemed to just work naturally, and they all get on fine. So whether he comes back to Adelaide, who knows? That's he is in long haul, so
Well, he's probably just travelling somewhere, isn't he?
he's always going somewhere. He's Hong Kong to London, or Hong Kong to New York, or to Melbourne. So he loves that life. So where Brad really enjoys the struggle of managing the people to some extent, don't you?
Some days. Some days.
Yep.
This goes to Brad and Madeline. I mean, there'll be some family business owners here tonight that do have kids, maybe younger than you, and it'd be good to hear from you in the sense of what helped you along that journey to actually work out what's my lane, what's my calling, you know, and is it in the family business or not? Knowing that your dad really, really keen there to be another generation, and knowing his experience about with his dad, it just suddenly was called, I'm out of here, right? How did you navigate that? Was it self-driven, or was it guided by your dad, or how did you sort of really work through that to make that kind of decision?
Well, I think, like, even talking about Jackson, like, you know, when I finished school in 2003, like, the company was nowhere near as big as what it is now. And, like, I've sort of known that if I want to have the type of life I want to live, I've got to work really hard to make enough room for Ken and myself. And now it's like, well, I've got to work even harder again to make enough room for the type of life that Madeline's going to want to live as well. And so I've just been really determined to just grow the business as much as possible. And so I don't think you necessarily push me down any specific line. I think I'm just entrepreneurial by nature, and you know, that's how come I've ended up in this set. And I've always taken a keen interest in how to deal with the people, because I had to. And, you know, for yourself.
I started off in reception, went off and had 2 children. I don't feel like I was pressured to come back. It was a natural progression. I came back and did a bit of invoicing, and then I moved into customer satisfaction, which is quite a challenging gig. I feel like that was the pressure moment. Can I rise to that challenge of dealing with, you know, our customers and making sure our customers are happy. And through that process, I realised I love working with people, and I have a really compassionate side, and getting deep with people and understanding them on that level. So I think I've naturally fallen into this role just by, you know, cruising along and sort of dabbling in different areas of the business.
Yeah, like, what would I do if it was my kids now? I'd just do probably what Ken did for me too, just like show them and teach them and let them find their path. Like, Jackson's just probably not as entrepreneurial. Like, I just don't think he would have liked the haggle.
No.
You know, whereas, like, I like the haggle, you know, like I'm fine with it. But
Entrepreneurial pilot side.
yeah, nah, he's a by the book guy. When he clocks off, he's off, and he's in Sri Lanka or somewhere around the world. But yeah.
No. He flies to London and then sits in the hotel for 2 or 3 days, doesn't he? He's happy with that.
Oh yeah.
And he's getting paid for it.
Yep. He's paid well to do it.
Do you get family benefits?
Well, we
do.
Actually, you do, but it's not that practical when you got 3 children. Can't go anywhere. But the perks are fantastic. Like he can fly around the world for
Not
business class for not much if you're prepared to be on standby, which doesn't help me at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah.
All right. Any final questions, or we might wrap up for some more networking?
We got heaps of dessert there, guys. If anyone's
There's some amazing food out there.
like some
You've done
dessert,
very
so
well.
please help
I'll
yourselves.
hand back to Amanda.
On behalf of FBA and everyone here, thank you so much, Ken, and the family for having us here. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And I've got some men's fruit chocks for the rest of the team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for hearing our story.
Thank you.
Thank you.